Hello, hi guys, Jason here again. All right, so for today's topic, we will be talking about gearing up for protection in and out with using the Synology NAS as your file server. All right, so we'll be going through some of the apps that we have. All right, so I'll be going through slide by slide as Okay, so sorry. Okay, so as mentioned earlier, for today we will be giving out a brand new Synology DS220 for filling in the survey. Okay, so at the end of the presentation for today, we will actually have a survey for you to fill up, and then you can win yourself a Synology DS220. Okay, so take note of that. All right. Now, as for the slides, okay, if you need me to go back to my previous slide, let me know. Okay, I will definitely monitor the chat and also look out for the comments, if any. Okay, I can see all the comments if there are. All right. Okay, now we'll be talking about gearing up the Synology NAS to be used as your file server in terms of business. Okay, so I'm going to teach you how to use it with the apps that's provided for free. Okay, all the apps and services that I mentioned today, all right, they are totally free. There are no license fee, no subscription, no monthly subscription, no yearly subscription, no nothing. Okay, just to make sure that you know the apps being available for your NAS. All right. Now, as system integrators, installers, okay, and designers, all right, make sure that you size up the NAS correctly, okay? So if you have any questions about sizing, also you can let us know, all right? And we can advise you on where to look out for and where you can search for the information online, okay? So all this information are all available on Synology website. It's just that we have to find out where is it, okay? And at the same time, for the apps that we are talking about today, all right, there are actually administrator's guide available in PDF form where you can download from Synology website. Okay, so all these are all available for you. Okay, and you can definitely go ahead and look at what is available and what you can do with your Synology NAS. Okay, so meanwhile, if you have any questions, please do let us know. Okay, we have Lisa from Synology here with us. Okay, so she will be also helping us in answering some questions. All right, and also the distributor side, we also have people from Ethernet Asia, and we also have people from Ingram. Okay, so in case if you have any questions with regards to purchasing, okay, you can also reach out to them and let them know if there's anything that you want from them. Okay, and also let them know if you want them to contact you. Okay, so all this information are available for you. Okay, now With regards to product, brand, and hardware, I've already covered for you. Okay, do remember, as usual, if you have colleagues or resellers that you know of that is interested in attending today's lesson, please share out the URL, okay, and then get them to fill in the survey so they get a chance to win the prizes that are available. Okay. Should anybody want to reach out to me, you can also reach out to me to ask questions, especially in terms of technical or what's coming and stuff like that. All right. The next session after today will be on the 22nd of June. Okay. That'll be the next session. And the next session, we'll be talking more on the DSM 7.0. Okay. I believe some of you may have already heard that the 7.0 has been upgraded from beta to RC. Okay. For those who don't know, RC means release candidate. So that's almost the final version of the DSM 7.0. Okay. But don't do that don't use that into your production NAS, not advisable. Okay. If possible, try to do it and test it if you have a spare NAS or something that you have in the labs. Okay. I know some of you have labs, that way you can try out some of the functions and features and services that Synology NAS has before you actually sell it out to customers. Okay, so if anybody has any questions with regards to that, you can also bring it up and voice out, and then we can see how we can help you. All right, so now let's move on to my slide. Okay, let me switch over to my slide. Okay, so for today's session, we'll be talking about gearing up the NAS for use in terms of business application, and also how we can have the kind of protection and backup that we will want for our customers who are in the business sector. Okay. Now, of course, similarly, if you have some power user or home users who will want to have similar functionality and they engage you to do it, by all means, go ahead. Okay. It can all be done. All right. So as I go through the apps and the services, I will also go through some of the pitfalls and also some of the things to look out for. All right. And especially where to look for help in case when you are sizing and preparing the BOM for your customers. All right, so let's move on. Okay, so now in terms of services, all right, so in Synology wise, using it as a NAS, all right, you can back up information from PC, laptops, and of course Mac, all right, and of course also if you have file servers, all right, and also VMs. Okay, so these are some of the things that we look at. And other than using commercial available softwares, all right, like from Acronis or be it whatever brands that you are familiar with. Okay, so now if you have customers who are looking for something that is license free or subscription free, okay, so you can basically use the Synology and sell it as a complete solution and provide it as a form of managed services to your end customers, so that you are not tied down to any particular so-called vendor, right, and be forced to pay a yearly fee or monthly fee. Okay, so now in terms of Synology, what are some of the apps that you can use, okay, to be able to help your customers who are in the business to back up all the information? All right, so let's go through some of them. Okay, one is, of course, we are going from left to right. Okay, we have the Drive server. Okay, so the Drive server will allow the NAS to be used as their own private cloud in a way, okay, so that clients can sync the information, and it is also very useful for using in terms of collaboration work. Okay, so if you have customers who are looking into collaboration work and they want to find out more in terms of solutions that are available in the market rather than paying by per user to certain vendors, okay, by having a Synology NAS, they are able to do that also. And by having the Drive server, they are also able to have different multiple versions of their storage backup. Okay. Now, in terms of backing up for Office 365 and Google Workspace, all right. So Google Workspace is the new name for G Suite. Previously, it's called Google G Suite. All right. So now it's called Google Workspace. All right. For Office, it's still called Office 365. All right. So if you have customers who are on Google or on Office 365 and they wish to back up and not purchase additional archival storage from them, all right, they can of course also utilize the Synology NAS to do it. Okay, so there is the active backup, all right, from Synology inside the App Store. It's totally free. Okay, You can back up, depending on the size of the NAS that you have, as many accounts as you want, or as many information as you want. Okay. Further down, we have the snapshot replication. Okay, so in terms of snapshot replication, you can do snapshot replication between NAS to NAS. All right, so I'll go through briefly on that. Okay, now in terms of the ABB, Active Backup for Business, you can back up your Windows PC, your Linux PC, your Windows Server, your Linux Server. All these can be backed up with using agent. Okay, so you have to download the client, install it into the PC. All right, and then basically allow the agent to do the job and back up based on schedule or based on whatever settings that you may have. All right, you can create multiple templates, okay, for different clients or for client devices, and to how they can back up their information from the PC or server to the NAS itself. Okay, and then at the end, I will also be covering on backup strategies. Okay, so backup strategies will be covered at the end, towards the end of my slide. Okay, so take note of that. Now for Apple, don't worry, you'll use it as usual as a time machine. All right, so you will be able to back up the Mac into the NAS directly in case if you have users who are predominantly using Mac computers. Okay, now other than that, I'll be covering also on hyper backup. Okay, so hyper backup is also an option where you can also back up NAS to NAS where there is a offsite NAS being utilized to become the backup vault. All right, or you can also back up information from cloud, or at the same time you can also back up information from NAS to cloud or to external portable drives. Okay, so you can see the hyper backup allows you to back up to Synology's cloud server, which is the Synology C2. You can also subscribe to it. All right, you can subscribe directly and pay via credit card. Okay, that will be a payment between you and Synology directly. Okay, or you can back up from your NAS to Dropbox or Microsoft Box or Google Drive. Okay, so all these are all available, or you can even back up to Amazon S3. Okay, so all these are also available from the Hyper Backup app. All right, I will not be covering Cloud Sync. Okay, because it's already past its time. Okay, and of course, similarly, we'll be back to Drive Server again. Okay. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask if you have. Okay. Right. So let's take a look at the PC and Mac backup. All right. I'll be covering more on PC backups because basically that's the wider range of the customers. And then as for Mac, as usual, like I mentioned earlier, you can use your time machine. Okay. So now in terms of PC backup, okay, you can use the Drive. Okay. So there's a Drive app that's inside the App Store, all right? And it basically supports all three major platforms, which is Windows, Linux, and Mac, right? You can download and install the client. Once the client tool is installed, okay, files will be backed up automatically as you can select from the device to the NAS itself, all right? And then it will automatically sync. And whenever the device is in the network and it discovers the NAS, right, depending on how you set up, whether you set it up as a local IP or you set up on DDNS or if it's on a VPN, especially now with the work from home, okay? If they are VPN back from their home to office, all right, and the client tool will basically work itself and then back up the notebook or the device from the home to the office. Okay, that's also possible. Now, take note about this, all right? For those technical people, do not use the quick connect to do this, okay? You will be cut off and you can't do it, all right? Suggestion is either you go by VPN, all right? Once you VPN, you become a local IP, then you'll be able to do it. Or the other way around is DDNS or static IP, okay? Static IP is widely prevalent in Singapore, all right? It's not very expensive to get a static IP now, all right? If best possible, try to get a static IP and then basically push it out to your client devices. Okay. Now, of course, if you are still on the older platform, which is on the cloud station, then similarly you will do the same thing again. Okay. Now, then you just push it up. Okay. Now, in terms of the task, okay, what happens is you'll be real-time syncing, all right, and then it basically backs up everything, and you can have up to 32 versions, all right. The more versions you have, the more amount of space is going to occupy in the NAS, all right. So take note of that, and then you can select based on your company's IT policy with regards to how many backup version you prefer to have. Some have 3, some have 7, some have 32. All right, so this is all optional, and the options are all there for you, and you can specifically select the folder that you want to sync. All right, and even up to the file name and file size. All right, so all these are there. Right. So the next question that customers tend to ask is, what kind of backup does it do? All right, so it does incremental backup, and it has intelligence. Okay, so what happens is, let's say on Monday, you're going to back up 1 GB of data. All right, so on Tuesday, you have done some work and there is an increase of data from 1 GB to 1.1 GB. So there's additional 100 megabytes. All right, so the additional 100 megabytes will be uploaded into the NAS. All right, it's not going to occupy 2.1 terabytes, 2.1 gigabytes. All right, the original 1 gigabyte is still going to stay there, except that it's just going to upload the differences. Okay, it's going to add on the differences, and at the same time, regardless of number of versions that you have, you can put up to 32. You'll still be first in, first out. All right, so it will still be some form of storage savings. All right, and in terms of bandwidth, it only uploads the difference. Of course, caveat here, take note that the very first time when you do the backup, it's going to be a bit painful because it depends on how much you're going to back up, all right, and how fast and what kind of speed you have. All right, usually take note about that. For the very first time, it will just take longer, okay, and it depends on the speed that you have. All right, whether is it local or is it over the internet, and if it's over the internet, there's too many factors because there's network overhead and stuff like that. Okay, so take note about all this information. Okay, now with regards, I think this is very simple and very straightforward and very direct. Okay, now let's take a look at a simple case study that we have. All right, so over here you can see that there's Jetstar Pacific Jet, which is over in Vietnam. They are using it. All right, and basically what happens is, you can see from the slide, they have it on both their clients, okay, client devices. They also have it on the Windows server. Okay, so all these are all available for you, and then you can basically work from there. All right, so in their case, you can see that they actually have 3 NASs. All right, so what's going to happen? What happens is, they have their primary rack storage, okay, and then followed by a HA, all right, local backup, all right. So there's a secondary again, and followed by they have another one which is on a remote, okay. So they basically have 3 rack storage, and at the same time, they work it out to make sure that they are all duplicating each other, so that there and there, okay, they have real-time backup, and also to make sure that there's multi versions of PC backup, okay, and at the same time, there's also cross versions of deduct, okay. If you have any problems hearing my voice, let me know, okay, so we can also adjust any of the settings for audio on our side, okay. We are trying to improve the situation over at our side also, okay. So far, I haven't seen any questions being asked, all right, so don't be shy, okay. Don't worry, all these will be recorded, and the URL that you have is still valid. We do not remove any of our recordings. For those who have attended our sessions before, all the URLs that you have are all valid. Okay, they are all stored in YouTube, and you can go back and take a look at whatever that was mentioned before, and you can also review it again. Okay, so let me move on to the next slide. Okay, so now there's one example here where if a colleague calls you and says that I have a very important file that I've accidentally deleted, okay, and then you have to find the backup that you have that could be quite a while back, okay. So how do you normally do it? All right, some people have it either on a very crude way, which is they store it on a portable drive, okay, hoping and praying that the portable drive doesn't spoil or nothing happens to the USB connector. All right, or basically they will look for different form of backup solutions. All right, so today I just want to stress again, all right, look at Synology, and basically is able to offer you a all-in-one management backup solution where you can do for PCs, servers, and even VMs. Okay. Now for VMs, I will especially mention on which are the VMs that you can use it for. All right. And then as for servers, of course, similarly, I will also mention. Now for PCs, of course, I will also mention the OS that is available. Right. For those who are just come in, all right, you will see a QR code. That's the QR code that you can fill in for the survey at the end of the presentation. Okay. So I just have a quick one here. Right. So what's the option for customers who are in the business where they want to have some form of backup? All right. So what you can do is you got to start off first with a Synology NAS. All right. Depending on whether the size of the operations, you can start off with a desktop, a day station, or a rack station. Okay. So basically, then from there you add in the app, which is the active backup for business. Now take note of the number of devices that will be connected concurrently. All right. The more that you have, the more RAM you need to add on. Okay. So now, in case if you need to find help for the sizing of this particular app, all right, what you can do is you can see at the bottom there, right? I have the URL. Okay. So that's one of the support lines, support sites where you can get help, and you can of course go that way. Okay. All right. Let me show some stuff here. Okay. Now, so what does it offer for you from Synology with the ABB? Okay, it is able to give you a streamlined management. All right. So as I mentioned to you, all right, what people want is ease of management. And for us who has been selling and using Synology, we know that Synology all the while for the user interface and the user experience has been very, very pleasant since DSM 4.0, way back since God knows 2012. Okay, there's been a lot of leaps and jumps of improvement. Okay, and the next one would be on the restore options. Okay, because customers will say, how can we do the restoration? So I will go through with you what kind of restoration options there are and what kind of backup options there are. Okay, and then efficiency. Okay, we'll look at how to maximize the backup efficiency. All right, so these are some of the things that I will go through with you. And similarly, there will be a administrator guide which you can download from Synology website. Okay, all you have to do is just go to Synology website. Okay, go to support. All right, and then you can just click on ABB, and then there it's able to help you provide you with the options on there. Okay, right. So let's move on and see. Okay, now in terms of streamlined deployment. Okay, what we're talking about that. Okay, what we're talking about in terms of streamline, that means basically as the IT administrator, or basically the one that is doing the configuration, you want to be able to create different kind of templates, okay, that are applied to different users or different groups. Okay, you're going to have customers who says that I have the warehouse people, I have the marketing, I have the sales, I have the management, I have the finance. So how do I tackle all of them? Okay, so you can create different templates for different groups of people. And like I mentioned earlier, different departments will require active backup. Some of them may want it done daily, or some of them may even want done it half daily, or basically some who are not so important, they say, okay, just do it weekly. That'll be fine. All right. So all these schedules need to be worked out. Okay. And rather than do it one by one, okay, you can just do it in one single template and push it out to all the clients. Okay. And from the agents, the client tools, they will be able to know what they need to do. All right. And the next one that you need to set as the IT administrators or IT admins is to make sure that how many concurrent clients are going to be backing up at the same time. All right. So that's, you have to do the sizing correctly. Okay. So now in terms of templates, like I mentioned earlier, all right, you can create by user or by group, depending on who they are and what they do. Then the next one will be based on the restoration type. You can take a look at the kind of restoration, okay? And you can see how often you want it done, okay? Whether you want it on the daily or hourly or even weekly. All these backup frequency all can be tuned, all right? And in terms of retention policies, how many versions you want to keep, okay? Of course, the more we barrier, okay, because then you'll sell more NAS and you'll sell more hard drives, okay. So just take note of that, okay. Now, so how do we do the deployment? Okay, so what happens is there will be, first you create the template, all right. So once that's done, then you apply it to different users, different groups. Okay, you'll be pushed out. Okay, IT admin, you will apply them and push it out to them. Okay, they will get their own templates, and it will be in a way into their client tools, okay, or the client agents. All right, different people have different namings for those. All right, so we just keep it that way. And once that's done, for the IT administrator, what will they see on the NAS? Okay, they will see one single dashboard, and this dashboard will show up and show them how many PCs are being backed up, how many servers are being backed up, how many VMs, and how many file servers. All these are all shown directly in front of you. Yeah. How much space is being utilized, all right? If there's any failed attempts by any of the devices, all of them will show up, okay? And by having one single dashboard, you'll be able to monitor all your backup tasks, all right, and your failure alerts. And basically, you can generate a report, okay, based on your policies, and then you can check if there's any clients, okay, that refuses to back up. Okay, then you can double check. Is there a reason why a particular laptop or why a particular PC is not backing up? Is there any kind of malice being done, or was there any form of settings being improperly set up? All right. So all these will all show up in front of the dashboard. And with this dashboard, if you were to show it to any IT admins, okay, it's very, very simple and very, very clear and concise. All right. So most of them are looking for clear and concise dashboard where they can see everything across the board. Okay. So that's one good thing about it. And like I mentioned earlier, since the start of this presentation, that it is completely free, totally free. Okay. There's no subscription, there's no yearly fees. All right. Nothing to be paid. All right. All you have to do is just make sure that the app that's given to you for free, the download for free, is updated. All right. And to make sure that you know your sizing. All right. And you make sure you know how much space you need. Okay. Now, in terms of integration, okay, what kind of OS is available? All right, basically it accepts Windows PC. All right, for Windows servers, it goes all the way back to 2008. All right, all the way up to 2019. Now, for Windows OS, it supports Windows 7, Windows 8.1, Windows 10, all editions. Okay, all this information will be constantly updated in the website that I mentioned earlier, where you can go in Synology support. You will see, all right, all this information for you, so you can double check again. Okay. Now, in any case, if there's anything that is not supported, all right, it will also be stated in the website. Okay. So all this will be all updated for you. Now, for VM, okay, basically it supports VMware vSphere from 4.1 to 6.7. All right. It also supports VMware EXSI. Now, for EXSI, be careful. Make sure that your sizing on the NAS is correct. All right. Don't try and do all these large-scale VMs on a small little DS NAS. Okay. There are people who tried and fail. All right. The first thing that we reply them and tell them the sizing is wrong. Okay. Don't use the wrong size NAS to try and do the impossible. Okay. Then, of course, if you're using Samba and rsync, okay, all those will be on agentless. All right, there's no need for any agents to be running. Okay, so mainly who will be using rsync and Samba will be mostly Linux servers. Okay. Now, other than the usual VMware, of course, Hyper-V is also supported. All right, so the versions for the Hyper-V, you can see it in the website also. All right. Now, in terms of restoration, okay, customers will also want to know, after I have done all this backing up, okay, what kind of restoration options do I have for PCs, servers, and VMs? Okay, so I'm going to go through with you. Now, in terms of restorations, okay, authorized permitted users, okay, let me mention again, authorized permitted users, okay, will be given instant and restoration capabilities without the need for asking for admin help. Okay, for unauthorized users, all right, they will have to refer back to the administrator for help to restore anything that they have done in terms of the backup. All right, So once you click on the restoration, there will be basically a portal, like you see on the slide. You will be able to select the folder or the file. All right, so it goes all the way down to file level in terms of restoration. Okay, so that's the very good thing about it. Okay, so if you just accidentally deleted a file, or if you want to restore something that is depending on how often you backup, if it's done on weekly, if you've done God knows 32 versions, you can go back 32 weeks. Okay, now the limit for the ABB is 255. Okay, you can do until 255 versions. Okay, of course, don't do that. If you do that, that will be crazy. All right, so what you can do is one of the so-called recommended would be maybe you can do it weekly and spread out over 52 weeks. Then there and there you have 1 year of backup. Okay, or some people what they'll do is they'll do it on Monday and Friday. So Monday you have your initial backup, and then Friday you can backup again. So you will save the whole week's work that you have done. All right, and then you'll be backed up. Now, in why reason of Monday and Friday is in case on Friday or Thursday you want to look back at the initial versions that you have on Monday, you can also go back and retrieve. Okay, and then it's 52 times 2 is only 104. Okay, so then you can have also similarly 1 whole year's Monday and Friday backup. Okay, still within the scope of 255. Okay, right. Any questions, please feel free to write out in the comments. All right, somebody will definitely be there to answer. Now, the next one will be bare metal. All right, so there's 2 ways to recover. One is bare metal, another one is volume based. Okay, so it depends on the option that you choose, whether you backup based on volume or you backup based on bare metal. All right, so now if you happen to have a hard disk failure, okay, and the desktop or the piece or the notebook basically swap out a new hard drive, you got to put in a new hard drive. Okay, so what happened is there will be a document where you can also work on to create a media tool. So basically what you can do is you can create a boot up media using a USB drive. Okay, and basically after you have done the booting up, what will happen is you will basically allow you to boot up from the new hard drive and connect to the ABB and restore it bare metal onto the new drive. Okay, don't worry, for OS it recognizes my motherboard. Okay, there is a machine ID that allows the OS to be retrieved back into the machine. Okay, unless you basically change out the whole entire machine. Okay, then that's a different story again. Okay, so all you need with Media Creator is only to make a USB disk to boot up, plug it in, boot it up. A wizard will pop up and guide you through it. Okay, you don't have to even enter any command line. Basically, you just click through whatever that prompts up. If you agree, then you just proceed, and then that's it. It's done. Okay. Now, the next question that I've been asked quite often is how much time is used to restore? Okay. My question back to you is depends on the drive that you have. Is it mechanical or SSD? Okay. And how are you connected to the NAS? By LAN cable or by Wi-Fi? Okay. Let me give you a very quick example. Right. So for example, let's say a customer says that I have 320 GB of information that I need to restore back. Okay. I'm connected by LAN, okay, to a gigabit network on an SSD. All right. Roughly how much time you will need to provision to restore it back? Honestly, if you're looking at gigabit, you're looking at about 1 hour and 10-20 minutes. Depends on how fast you do it. Okay. Some people can get it done within 1 hour and 10-15 minutes. Some people will just dilly-dally and take a little bit more time. Okay, then that may go and stretch up to 1 hour and 25 minutes or 1 hour and 35 minutes. Okay, so don't promise your customer anything. I just basically give you some secrets. Okay, so basically you look at the amount of time. Gigabit LAN, SSD, okay, gigabit LAN cable connector, okay, on gigabit, and then basically SSD, all right, be it on an i5 or i7, all right, at least 7 gen or 10 gen, okay, with proper memory, you should be able to retrieve and come back within less than 2 hours, okay? How much time you're going to charge your customer for it, I leave it up to you guys, okay? We are all professionals. Right, the next one after recovery is how do we save space and save time, okay? Let's see what we can do, all right? Now, over here, these are some of the platforms that I mentioned earlier. Okay, it supports VMware's vSphere and it supports Hyper-V. Okay, Windows as usual, all versions like I mentioned from Windows 7, 8.1, and 10. Okay, so here is a very quick table to compare. All right, so in case if customers were to ask, okay, now if you have any other special requests with regards to the ABB, all right, do fill in a ticket and you can let them know what are some of the features and functions that you are looking for, okay, and then update Synology about it. And if they find that there's sufficient requests for it, they may incorporate it and work on it. And then also you can also share your experience with other brands that you have and what it can do, okay, and then you can also work with them on it. All right. So now sizing. Okay, I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about sizing. Okay, so let's look in terms of the number of PCs or number of VMs. Okay, look at it in that way. All right. So for example, let's say if it's a small office. Okay, I'm not counting the number of people. Okay, I'm counting the number of devices. Work on it from the number of devices. All right, and also to look at the network. Okay, to see if it's on Wi-Fi or if it's on LAN cable. All right, try to work with LAN cable as much as possible. Okay, and also if possible, check out if the drives are they mechanical or are they SSDs. Okay, all these matters. All right, the larger the SSD, the faster the speed. Simple as that. Okay, the smaller the SSD, the slower the speed, even though it's SSD. Okay, now what happens is, let's say for 25 clients, you can look at even a small size DS220. Okay, for 50 devices, you can look at, for desktop, you can look at 720 or 920. Of course, if you want to go 1.5, it's also good. All right, it's also possible, or you can go 1.6, not an issue. Now, given 25 or 50 client devices, take note. All right, there's something, the caveat that I need to inform you guys. Take note that at any one time, okay, the backing up should be done at only 10 clients each time. Okay, if you want to do more than 10, be sure to increase your memory on the NAS. All right, you have to multiply it by 2. Okay, you got to jump. All right, and do note the size of the NAS. All right, there is a limit on the memory that you can increase. All right, read up and check on the data sheet. Okay, all this information are very, very important. But best and easiest way is to limit yourself to 10 clients backup situation concurrently. Okay, I'm talking about concurrently at any one time, so that it'll be easier. All right, so for example, if you have 20, 25 devices, you can space them out. Okay, 10 could be backing up at, let's say, 7 p.m. or 9 p.m. The next 10 could be backing up 1 hour later. Okay, this is after you have done the very first backup. So these are incrementals. Okay, incrementals usually takes the most 10 minutes. Some are even shorter because you're not sure how much information they can add in the day. Some may add 10 megabytes or 100 megabytes. Some maybe will add 1 GB in a day. All right, because they've been downloading a lot of attachments. Okay, depending on the industry they are at. Okay, so you can space them out, be it half an hour or 1 hour. Okay, work on it from there. That'll be easier. Then you just space yourself out. You have the whole night to do the backing up. Okay, so for critical and crucial departments like maybe finance, HR, or accounting, you may say that during lunch hour, all right, you may want to do a very fast and quick backup. Okay, so you can do a very fast incremental backup of what they have done the previous part of the day. All right, so there will be maybe 2 units or 3 units, so that's not much. Okay, so you can use the lunch hour to do it, and then they can also back up again or be one of the first few PCs or laptops to back up once work's finished. Okay, now take note, if they are still working on the laptop and the schedule is there, all right, it will run. Okay, the backup will still run. Okay, so take note of that. Okay, so now there's another thing that we can follow is there's a figure. So for example, if the client is basically an admin person, all right, on average the PC is already occupying about 150 GB. The daily change rate is about 3%. Okay, take note about that. Okay, so from there you can figure out roughly how much information they may add, maybe about 3 GB a day or 5 GB a day. Okay, so you can calculate and multiply by the number of devices to do the backing up. Okay, so that you don't create any network congestion. So there will be bottleneck in terms of the network bandwidth. Okay, so now upwards of 150, 200, or even 500 client devices. Similarly, all right, the larger you go, all right, remember to increase the memory. The RAM memory definitely needs to be increased. Okay, and also similarly, make sure to count how much bandwidth you need for the whole network. All right, so all these are very critical in terms of the sizing. Okay, now if you have questions with regards to the sizing, okay, as usual, I've also included the URL where you can look for help. All right, go to the support site on Synology website. Okay, there will be also a document on it on how you can do your sizing. There will also be some notes. What are the things to look out for when you're doing your sizing? Okay, all those will all be in text and you can read through it. All right. So similarly, I'm here. So I'm also advising you to make sure you read through it when you're doing your sizing. Okay, it's very, very crucial, very, very important about that. Okay, like I mentioned earlier, as usual, ABB completely free. Okay. So what does Active Backup provide you? It basically gives you a single portal, single dashboard for you to manage all your backup tasks for PC, servers, and VM. Hyper-V also included. Okay, it's either agent-based or agentless. All right. There's no limit to the number of versions they can support. All right. Now, for NAS, okay, it needs to be running the file system of BTRFS. Okay, if you have an older version and it's on ext4, I'm sorry, you can't do it or you can't use it. Or you can do, if it's still a updated NAS, what you can do is you got to create a new volume under BTRFS, and then you can use the Active Backup for business. Okay. Now, of course, there is also a minimum number of RAM that you need. Okay, take note of that. So now, in terms of backup mode, you know that you have multi versions, mirroring, and incremental. Okay, so make sure of all this information that you have. Now, next, how do we look out for Mac users? All right, we support Synology NAS supports Apple Time Machine backup. Okay, as usual, no additional software required. Basically, you just use the Time Machine functions that you have on your Mac, and then just recognize the NAS, and then you will basically do the backup. Okay, what happens is Mac will be using AFP or Samba to support, and then basically push it up to the NAS. Okay. All right. Is that all? Okay. No. All right. So there will be some more stuff coming along. All right. I know I've been talking for the past 45 minutes. Okay. So other than what I've mentioned earlier on the PC, server, and VM, okay, let's talk about public cloud. Okay. How do we manage it and how do we do it? Okay. Now, in terms of cloud collaboration backup, what's available? Okay, let me go through with you. So in terms of our context in Singapore, we use a lot of Office 365. Okay, not so many on Google, right? But don't worry, I'll still cover both. All right. So now in terms of cloud, you have your active backup for Office 365. Okay, for those 365 users. All right. Similarly, there's no limit to the number of accounts. All right, it's just limited by the number of the size of your NAS that you have. Okay, then followed by the active backup for Google Workspace. Okay, so take note of this. These two are all free, similarly like ABB. Okay, so how does it go about doing it? Basically, all you have to do is deploy it. Okay, and there are basically 3 steps to complete the backup. Okay, now to do this, you have to make sure that the account used must be the administrator. Okay, the account used has to be the administrator account, the authorized account to access Office 365 or Workspace. Okay, remember that must be the administrator account, all right, or authorized account. Okay, so what's going to happen is they're going to prompt up and show you and ask you, where is your Office 365 endpoint? Okay, now take note, because Singapore being very internationalized, okay, not everyone that you meet may be using Singapore's or Asia's Office 365. If you have any European clients, okay, if you have any European clients, their Office 365 could be based in Germany. Okay, so you got to double check and ask them. Okay, so it doesn't mean that who you meet will be localized Office 365. Okay, some of them, their Office 365 account could be based on their European HQ. Okay. Once you have selected that, the next thing is to create a task. All right. So you got to create a task. All right. Once that's done, it basically asks you what you want to back up: the office, the email, the calendar, the contacts, or the whole entire backup, including the drive. Okay. And the next one is to how many versions you want to do. Okay. And how often you want to do in terms of the backing up. All right. Select the policy. All right. Once that's done, click next. Okay. And then basically then you'll be able to do all your backing up. Okay. So now be very careful and mindful about continuous backup. Okay. Continuous backup will be non-stop. Okay. Of course, the good thing about it is minimize the risk. Okay, but it will consume a lot of bandwidth as usual. Okay, so do continuous only if for critical and crucial departments or staff. Okay, now in terms of file version retention, as usual, okay, check with the customer how many versions they want to keep, and then just basically input it in and then just let it run by itself. Okay, so all this whole entire process is basically automated. All right. Once you have set the schedule, once you have set the frequency, that's it. The NAS will run by itself and pull down all the information from Office 365 or from Google. All right. So all this is all done automatically. Okay. Now, in terms of restoration, so how do you actually restore something that is backed up from Office 365, for example? Okay. So there is a portal where both the employees and administrator can basically go in and restore. Okay, let me show you in terms of example. Here's an email. All right, so let's say I want to restore an email. All right, so you can go in and you can search through the email. Okay, you can search by keynotes. Okay, you can check. All right, and you can even click and view the email first before you do the recovery. Okay, so that's one thing that is very good. You can even export it out. Okay, you can even export out the email. Okay, so in case if you have any disgruntled employee who thinks that he can try and delete all the emails, not knowing that actually you have also backed up the whole entire Office 365. Okay, so these are all the things that you can show to the management, regardless of the size of the company, if they are using Office 365 or Google Workspace. Okay, so there and there, you can look by, in terms of, I mentioned earlier, keywords. Okay, you can look at subject, to and from. All this information you can search through the entire email. All right, and then you will show up. You can take a look first, preview. If you want it, then you can download it, export it. Okay, or else you can move on to the next one. Okay, so this is a button for you where you can click on export and you will be able to export out the information. Okay, now in terms of advanced management, all right, basically what happens is on the single dashboard, similarly, they will see all the accounts and all the informations that they have backed up. Okay, and then basically on a single interface, the IT admin will be able to do everything there and there. Okay, you'll be able to click in and access all the information. Okay, so all these are also very sensitive information. Just make sure that to let the owners of the company know about it, that all the information is extremely sensitive. Okay, now talking about all this cloud information, all right, there's something I need to share with you guys. All right, do take note that cloud is a shared responsibility. Okay, the customer themselves are responsible for the prevention of data loss from accidental or meticulous user. Okay, and also in terms of how long they need to store the information for legal purposes. Okay, this is not on the cloud provider, it's on the cloud customer. Okay, take note of that. Cloud provider is only responsible for the physical security of the data center, okay, the infrastructure, the network, okay, of course the application. Now other than that, anything beyond that, all right, because they're selling storage as a service, okay, make sure that customers understand where their responsibility lies. Okay, there's only so much a cloud provider can do. So then there and there, they have to take over the rest of the responsibility, which is not on the cloud provider. Okay, so all this information has to be very made aware to the end customers. All right, don't get yourself into litigation issues. All right, just state it up front, let them know. Okay, where their responsibility are. and what they need to take note of. Okay, so now this is an empty slide. Okay, so first thing first, what we have been able to provide is you have your active backup for Office 365. Okay, you have your active backup for Workspace, Google Workspace. Okay, and then you can cover your emails, you can cover your storage, you can cover your contacts, calendar, all right, and even SharePoint. Okay, for some users, they may be using a lot of SharePoint. Okay, for Office 365, take note of that. You are able to also settle their problems for them and back up all the SharePoints for them. Okay, you'll take note that there's a QR code. You can also scan it to prepare yourself for the survey at the end of the PPT. All right, so a quick summary. All right, the Synology Active Backup for Office 365 and Workspace, basically you have a central backup dashboard. Okay, you have a very flexible user interface for both IT admin and end users. Okay, so there it's a very convincing solution for a lot of businesses. Okay, for administrators, if they want to look at the guide, I have put in a keyword for you. You can search for Active Backup for Business Administrator Guide. Okay, you can search for it in Synology website. It's a PDF. Okay, and you can download it and go through it. Inside there, it also points out some of the notes that you have to take care of, especially in terms of doing the sizing. It also has a small little table in terms of the sizing tool. Okay, so take note of that. Now, if you need to size for raw space, okay, there's also a sizing tool on Synology website to count based on whether you need for RAID 1, RAID 5, RAID 6, RAID 10. Okay, all those are all inside Synology website. Okay, right. So now in terms of the Active Backup family, right, like I mentioned earlier, you have access to PCs, servers, VMs, and also cloud collaboration apps. Okay, so now when you're downloading the app from the application menu, okay, be sure to know that you back up the correct thing. For PCs, servers, and VMs, you got to download the Active Backup for Business. For Office 365, you have to download the Active Backup for Office 365. For Google Workspace, you have to download the Active Backup for Google Workspace. Okay, so take note of that, and then just basically run it in the NAS and do the necessary configuration and network settings, and then that's it. That's done. All right, it's as simple as that. Now, I have talked about all the various applications and solutions that are available. All right. So the next thing is, after you put all the eggs into the basket, so how about the basket itself? How do you protect the NAS itself, correct? Because customer will say, now you're asking me to back up all my client devices from PCs and laptops into this box that you are selling me, be it on a disk station, desktop, or be it on a rack. Okay, what are some of the options that you have to help me protect my basket, which is the NAS? Okay, so let me go through with you very quickly. All right, so you have your snapshot replication. Okay, so you can do snapshots of the NAS to NAS. Okay, so basically you can create multiple versions, okay, of however fast you want it to be. So depending on the customer's RPO and RTO, okay, you can choose to do the snapshot maybe every 5 minutes. Okay, then you can have your recovery point, okay, and also your recovery time. Okay, so you need to find out from your customers. You have to understand, okay, how fast you want to recover and how much time you're allowed to do the recovery. Okay, so depending on the NAS usage, how it's being done. Okay, so you can do a long or share folder snapshot. Okay, you can set it up as a 5 minute. Okay, in terms of every time you do an objective. So let's say you can save from 1 o'clock, 1:05, 1:10, and so on and so forth. And in terms of recovery time, how fast you want to be able to recover in case of any issues. Okay, so all these can all be preset and then basically help you. All right, so you got to use the snapshot replication, and then at the same time, if you want to do remote replication, okay, you can also do it, and then you can also send it offsite. So you may help your customer do on-site production NAS and then off-site production NAS. So you may have one that's on the office, another one that is hosted in a data center or somewhere else, or remote office. Okay, So it could be at the branch, and then it could be HQ to branch, branch to HQ, okay, or vice versa. All right. So there are a few ways to do in terms of backup planning. All right. Now, at the same time, while you're doing all this, be very mindful about the hardware. Okay, be very, very mindful about the hardware. Make sure you size it correctly, even for those that you're going to do offsite storage. Okay, be very, very careful about that. Okay, now, similarly, the time. Okay, you have to set the retention policy, be it both on the site, production site, and the remote site. Okay, so maybe on the remote site, you may not need to store as often as your production site. Okay, so you can set up different timing for on-site snapshot replication and off-site snapshot replications. Okay, so don't go and set everything at the same time. It doesn't have to work that way. Okay, you can check with the customer in terms of retention policy. Okay. Now, next one is these are some of the options that you may have where you can do HQ to branch, okay, or branch to branch, and also branch to HQ, okay, vice versa. There's a few ways to go about it, all right. So this is a very quick diagram to show you, okay. Now, in case after today's session you want to come back and take a look at it, don't forget the video is available on YouTube, okay. We have it on the same URL. You can still view it again. Except that on YouTube, of course, you can fast forward and scroll it down to where you want to see the particular slide that I'm showing, okay, and then you can be able to have a better understanding on it, okay. Now, in terms of backup strategy, okay, so by purchasing a Synology NAS, okay, first and foremost, it's able to do a on-prem backup, so you'll be able to back up your PC, servers, and VM. Okay, and if in terms of cloud services, it's also able to back up from cloud to NAS, and also similarly, you can run hyper backup to do from NAS to cloud. Okay, so these are all the free applications available for you. All right, and you can also do NAS to NAS. Okay, so all these are all there for you. Right. In case if you have any customers who have any questions with regards to all this, you can also come back to us and ask us questions as to what is the customers looking for, all right? And also to go through with them in terms of the policies that they may have, okay? Now, the next one will be to cover on hyper backup. Okay, so hyper backup is a very, very popular app that's being used for a very, very long time, okay? I'll just go through it very quickly, okay? So hyper backup allows you to do multi-versions and multi-destinations, okay? So what happens is hyper backup allows you to copy out your folders, okay, your configurations, all right? And in terms of versions, you can go up to 65K. Now, in terms of encryption, okay, it's encrypted using AES 256, all right? So it's very well protected, okay? And basically what happens is, most important thing is the flexibility. Okay, other than just doing local backup, okay, you can also replicate the data from one Synology to another Synology NAS, okay, be it on the same location or different location. Now, take note, in terms of remote backing up, you cannot use Quick Connect to do it. You need to use either DDNS or static IP. Okay, take note of that. Now, for public cloud services, as usual, some of them are all included, all right? Take note about that, okay? Like Amazon S3, like Google and Microsoft. Okay, all these are all there. Now, for some of the traditional ones, they may still say that, oh, I want to have it on an external portable drive. Is it still doable? Yes, it is still doable. Okay, you can have them plug in the external portable drive, plug into the USB, okay, back up the information, and they can even bring home the USB drive every day, okay, the portable drives, okay. So all these are all there. So let me show it to you again. Like I mentioned earlier, Synology NAS to Synology NAS, okay? Synology NAS to public clouds, okay? And also, don't forget Synology's own public cloud, which is the Synology C2. You can purchase the space according to your requirement. And then you have your rsyncs to your external portable drives, okay? So all these are all there, all right? So I'm going to let this slide run for a while so that you can remember, and also to make sure that you can use this functionality. Okay. Right. Hang on there. We still have another few more slides to go. Don't forget that I'll be doing also a hardware product update. Okay, there are two new updates to two new SKUs, two SKUs. All right, so I'll go through with them with you. Or else, don't forget to fill in the survey at the end of the presentation. Okay. Now, in terms of restoration, how easy is it to restore things that you have backup? Okay, so it's very simple. Just compare it like you're just compressing all the files. Okay, and basically you will use the Hyper Backup Explorer, just as how you use Windows Explorer or File Station to look through the information that you have stored. Okay, so basically all you have to do is just use the Hyper Backup Explorer, open it up, and then you just look at it like you are looking through your Windows Explorer or your file station, and then just back up whatever you want to require. Okay. So it supports Mac, Linux, and Windows as usual. Okay. So all these information are all available for you. Okay. In case if customers want to show and see, all right, very simple. You can just do a very quick backup, delete it from the NAS, all right, and then you go to the remote site, open up the Explorer, restore it back, and then you'll be transferred back into NAS again. Okay. Now, in terms of backup, what's the best practice for it? Okay, we've been talking about this for the past couple of years. Okay, so backup basically you look at backup 3-2-1. Of course, there are also other other practices around. Okay, so in terms of Synology, they will practice backing up 3-2-1. Okay, so basically you will have 3 different versions. Okay, all right, 2 different media and 1 offsite. Okay, so that's how the tree comes out. Okay, 3 generations of information. Okay, so you call it 3 generations, you can call it 3 versions, you can call it 3 copies. I leave it up to you. Okay, 2 different media, that means make sure it's on 2 different physical media, all right, not on the same media. Okay, and then for 1 is to make sure that one of them definitely has to be offsite. It could be an offsite NAS, it could be an offsite cloud, public cloud storage, or it could be a portable drive. Okay, now take note for things that are portable, all right, there is a lifespan for them. Okay, take note, they will do spoil if in case you drop it or in case of mishandling. Okay, so when customers are choosing such options, do remember to remind them when it's time to change or when it's time to do preventive maintenance. Okay, please make sure they do it. Okay, or else if they have any issues, they're going to look for you. Okay, as professionals, we have to make sure we give them professional and correct advice. Okay, now like I mentioned earlier, 3 copies of data. Okay, you have your production storage, you have your backup storage, and then you have your secondary backup storage. Okay, then you have your 2 type of media. Okay, 2 different type of media, and then 1 copy that is offsite. Okay, I'm going to leave this slide to run for a while, this slide, and let it sink in with you guys. Okay, yes, I've been talking for the past 1 hour. Thank you very much so far for staying with me. Like I mentioned earlier, the recording will still be there. You can still see it anytime you want. All right. You can also show this slide to your customers so that they have a better impression as to know what they should do in terms of backing up and what's the best practice for it. Okay. Right. Okay. So the next one up. All right. This is a very quick summary of what I've shown you earlier today. Okay. Earlier on the starting of the presentation. All right. Take note. For the private cloud portion, you can use your drive server. Set up the NAS as a drive server. Okay. Now, for the cloud collaboration stuff, for active backup for Office 365 and active backup for Google Workspace. Okay. Then you have your snapshot replication. Remember, we talk about the RTO and RPO. Check with your clients to see what kind of policies they may have in terms of how fast they want to restore back. Then in terms of backing up for Windows PCs and also Windows Server and Linux PC and Linux Server. Okay, so for those, you have to use your active backup for business. Okay, so with all these apps, all right, and of course, last but not least, I mentioned earlier the Hyper Backup. Okay, so you can be able to do your best practice of backup 321. Okay, so all these apps you'll be able to gear up your NAS, all right, to prep your customers in case if they have any issues in terms of all this information. Okay, so take note about this screen. Okay, you can also show this screen to your customers to let them know what the NAS can do for them and how helpful it will be. All right, so there and there you will have one box to be able to do everything for them. Okay, choose the right app. Okay, help them settle all this information. Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, drive server. Okay, active backup for business. All right, you have the portable drives, okay, portable backup, okay, then you have your snapshot replication, and then followed by your hyper backup, okay. So all these are all very important things that you can gear up your NAS to be able to assist and help your customers, okay. So you can use not only just as a file server, but also as a backup solution, okay. Remember that. Now, so far, any questions? I don't. They're all okay, well managed, okay. Now, the next one will be on the new product announcement. Okay. Now, the new product will be on the update for the DS3617XS2 and then the DS2419 Plus 2. Okay. So basically, they just add another 2 behind. Okay. It's not 2 lines. Okay. They call it 2. Okay. So what's going to happen is in terms of the physical outlook, is still the same. Okay. One is expandable to 24 bay, one is expandable to 36 bay. Okay, so the amount of expansion ports behind is the same, except that this time round, it supports the newer network interface cards. Okay, as you know, that Synology has came out 25G network cards. All right, so take note of that. The older versions, the previous versions, can't support the newer network interface cards. All right, and also there are new interface cards which support M.2 SSDs. Okay, and it basically supports SSD caching. All right, because the previous generations doesn't have any SSD caching. So in this version, what happens is you need to have the add-on card, right? Which I have a video on. Basically, it's a 10G add-on card with 2 slots of M.2 NVMe. Okay, where you can attach 2 Synology NVMe, M.2 NVMe's. Okay, to become your SSD. Okay, now for SSD caching, remember you got to put them in a pair. All right, and then at the same time, one is read, one is write. They have to be the same size. Okay, the general rule of thumb is about 9%, 7 to 9% of your total space used. Okay, right. So in terms of SSD cache, if you need a guide, all right, there's also a white paper written on the SSD cache. You can download it from Synology website. It's available there for you. You can refer to page 9. At the bottom of page 9, basically, it gives you a rough idea of how much SSD caching you need for your NAS. Okay, so refer to that white paper if you need, or if your customer requires a white paper to read up on, you can show them the white paper and they'll be able to see and go through with them. Okay, so basically, these 2 models are available for ordering and purchase. Now, for the expansion unit, it's going to be the DX12152. Okay, so that's also the difference in terms of the expansion model. Okay, so if you're expanding from 12 bay that you have, okay, you want to add another 12 more bays for the DS2419 plus 2. Okay, you have to purchase the DS15122. Okay, there's another 2 lines behind it after the model. Okay, now the data sheets are all available. You can get it from your distributors. The product managers will have the data sheets. Okay, you can get it from them to show it to your customers if you need. All right, so they are all there. All right, so if you're going to be ordering any desktop 12 bays, okay, you can look at the new model, the DS2419 plus 2 or the DS3617 XS plus XS2. Okay, so these are the 2 new products for today's session. All right, like I mentioned earlier, the next one will be on the 22nd of June. There will be much more interesting stuff going on. All right. As we know that in the Synology website, for those with newer machines, the DSM 7.0 RC, okay, is slowly being released globally around the world. Okay, The good thing about Singapore is we got it pretty fast. Okay, as of yesterday morning, most of the Singapore clients will be able to have access to it. Okay, like I mentioned, don't use it in your production NAS. Okay, you can use it and you can download it and test it first and see if you are comfortable and you like it. So far, the comments has been that if you are running a lot of Dockers, please don't use it in the production yet. Okay, make sure you try it out and test it. Okay, performance wise, it's much faster. The loading has also improved a lot. Okay, but do take note if you're using on an old version or old SKU NAS, be very careful. Okay, because it tends to eat up more memory in order to be faster. Okay, so take note of that. All right. Okay. So very quickly, this is the QR code. You can scan it and then fill it in. The lucky winner will stand to win a unit of DS220 Plus. There's only one unit, all right? Just good luck to whoever that's going to fill up. Okay, meanwhile, if you have any questions, do feel free to write out in the comment section. We will definitely answer you, okay? If anybody needs any distributor to contact them, just put a note, get a distributor to contact you. You can put your email address. Okay. Yes, hard disk prices has been very volatile. Okay. Are there people using Synology NAS to farm chia? Yes, there are. Okay. Is it possible and is it doable? Yes, I would say yes. Is it economically viable with Singapore's costing? That I'll leave it up to you guys. Now, remember, for the new 2021 models for the rack storage, you need to use Synology hard drive. Okay, take note of that. You need to use Synology hard drive. Okay, in order to for anything above 8 TB. Okay, anything below 8 TB, you still have options to use Toshiba, WD, or Seagate. Okay. Are there going to be any new drives announcement? There may be, but maybe not so soon. Okay. The focus right now globally is more on the new launch of DSM 7.0. Okay. Right. I'm going to leave you guys for a few more seconds to fill out the survey. Okay. If you're watching this on YouTube as a recording, sorry, it's closed already. But other than that, if you are attending this live, you will definitely be able to fill it in. Right, another 10 more seconds. Three, two, one. Okay, now my last second slide. Any questions? Please feel free to ask. Okay, we'll be hanging around. All right, to ask any questions, or else I would say thank you very much for your time today. All right, like I mentioned earlier, we have a Facebook group, Synology Singapore NAS users. All right, do keep a lookout for it. There are a lot of active users in there. Okay. Please feel free to join us in Facebook. Okay, on and off, we do have some giveaways in the Facebook group. Okay, and we do share stories and share solutions in the Facebook group. Okay, so take note of that, and then basically that's about it for today. Now, okay, so anybody have any questions? We'll be hanging around. All right, just don't be shy. Okay. I can see my face now. All right. Before that, it's all mainly on the slides. Okay. For the data sheets for the new SKUs, okay, you can get it from your distributors. They do have it. Okay. Do take part in our next session on 22nd of June. All right. There will also similarly be a mass email. Right. The next one will be very, very interesting, like I mentioned earlier. Okay. We'll be looking at the DSM 7.0. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. I'm sorry I didn't wear my Synology shirt today. Right. Anybody have any questions for me? You can reach out to me privately, or you can reach out to me in the Facebook group, Singapore Synology NAS users. Okay. I'm there also, and I'm constantly updating every week with some tips and tricks for the NAS. All right. So no questions. If anybody want to leave a comment on the YouTube, by all means, we will be there to also answer if you have any. All right. Or else, don't forget to look out for your distributors in terms of stock status and pricing. Okay. Any questions at all, reach out to us. We'll be here to answer for you. All right. So I'll just call it a day for today, and thank you very much for your time. Okay. And it's been very fruitful 90 minutes for us. Okay. All right then. Thank you guys. Bye.